Okay.
Let me just mention something real quick here. For those of you who are watching this podcast, a lot of you might think that Jeff and Shaun are just a two-man show. Well, that's not the case. They do quite a bit of volume. They're the top NeoGen provider in the world. So, and you can probably imagine what that translates into revenues. But you have to have a great team around you, and that's one of the things that I've noticed that you guys have built. And that's not easy to do. You've got to get everybody on the same page, rowing the boat in the same direction. So, talk about that a little bit, and what you have to do as a spa owner to get everybody on the same page and kind of foster that unity.
Well, back to that attitude of abundance, I just want to digress here for a second. I want to say when you have an abundant attitude, right, all of a sudden there's more than enough, right? There's so much more than enough for everybody, right? But when you have an attitude of scarcity or famine, right, all of a sudden there's never enough. And in fact, there'll never be enough. There's never going to be enough for you or anyone else. And that attitude of scarcity or famine is born out of fear, whereas the attitude of abundance is born out of courage, right? And positive belief. So with that philosophy that we had, even before we got NeoGen PSR, we knew we were going to be hugely successful with the device. And we knew that we were going to have to build a team, to your point, that could be, very successful. It's almost like the old Ray Kroc, McDonald's founder, philosophy, which is basically, you want the same cheeseburger, you want the same shake every single time, consistent results. And in order to do that, Shaun and I had kind of worked, exclusively on theory and understanding what nitrogen plasma energy transfer actually was and what would facilitate the best result. That kind of crafted our pre-treatment, post-treatment protocol. And then it was straight hands-on training, one by one with each individual provider to make sure that they were doing, the NeoGen PSR treatment correctly. Also recertification, to make sure that we have a tendency, all of us, to get way off the beaten path, after a few months of treatments, and we need to get, rein it back in. It also...
To that point, Jeff, that's why our clinical team is going to work with you guys in Dallas. My clinical team, we always need to be checking in and working on skills. It doesn't matter if you've been instructing in something for years. Every time you go to an advanced education, you pick something up, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I look forward to my clinical team being in your hands.
Well,
different education.
And that's how this started, right? It really was just you doing the treatments, just you doing the demos and trainings.
Yeah,
now you're both at a part where you're too big, right? You have 3 NeoGen devices, you have a whole slew of clinical team members, but you're still going about it the same way, right? You're still keeping that partnership and doing it.
Jeff and Jeff are a touchstone for us. They will always be there. I trust them implicitly, beyond reproach, with any question or concern I have always. And that's in my business and in my personal life.
Well, just to jump in,
making her emotional.
Just to jump in here, because I know he has something really important, but I'm just going to spell it out for you guys. The 5 people, but, Rob, Angela, myself, and Shaun, think of it as cradling this NeoGen PSR dream thing, right? We were their first sale, all right? And when we found out what this device could do, right, they knew what this device could do, and they'll elaborate further on what that meant for their career at that time, right before they got married, okay, if they want to go that deep with you. But when you want to talk about all in, okay, there's no 2 more people that were all in than those guys sitting at the table right over there. And we didn't take that lightly, that we were, going to be the first, of a new generation of NeoGen PSR. So, the 4 of us not only knew that this device could succeed and would succeed, but we needed to make it happen. So there's something that happens during the process of that where you cross the bounds of friends and straight into family.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at. So.
Well, I think we were up front from the very beginning and say, hey, this is something different. There are people out there getting these incredible results, but it's inconsistent across the board. And even before we made the sale, if we can figure out how to develop some type of protocol of consistency, this can be the predominant energy-based device in the industry. And you guys went right to work on it, too.
Yeah.
You guys did your own research on it, And Angela, certainly, she kind of worked out a lot of the kinks.
Mm.
But the reality is, the reason that this has been around for over 20 years, this technology, the reason it's never taken off is because there's never been a protocol of consistency that's ever been developed on it. There's nobody that took the time to take full custody of this and really develop it to where it should be until the four of us came aboard with it.
We're the adoptive
So it's very important. It's very important when we do sell a system that if it's not Angela going out there training these providers, it's one of our trainers that can deliver the treatment effectively the same way Angela and Shaun does. Because I can tell you, we've had a couple of trainers where we sold the device to, they didn't train the provider properly, they haven't used it in 3 or 4 months, and we had to go back out there and training. Now, fortunately, they gave us the opportunity to go back out there and train them, and now they're purchasing consumables every month.
Well, and I just kind of, jump in there. Angela is an absolute, theoretical wizard when it comes to nitrogen plasma energy transfer. I think all of us kind of, really got deep into that field. But, I won't mention the provider, but I'll just say at the time that we got NeoGen, there was about 4 providers in the U.S. that were using it. And one of them was kind of producing these outstanding results, right? And the other 3 kind of weren't. And we kind of modeled a lot of what we do now off that one provider who actually still has NeoGen PSR, if I remember correctly. And, maybe at some point we'll have her on this podcast, but what I would say is that, consistent performance notwithstanding, we offer trainings as well. We've trained, I won't mention the name, a couple 2 times, and it's like the disconnect between the first time you went and then a year later is,
remarkable and scary.
So we call that sharpening the saw. Basically you need to sharpen the saw so you can cut more wood. And, every once in a while that saw blade will get dull, and then you got to go back out and you got to sharpen that saw again.
I will often tell officers that seem to have a disconnect that they really need to go and spend a day with you guys. The investment is so worth it because there's something that we can train people for. We get them for 2 days, and then they get us for 3 or 4 months. But we're not in that practice day in and day out, and we cannot make the cohesion happen all the time. But sometimes coming off-site and seeing how it works in another place changes the educational experience. So when I have an office that's almost there and it's not gelling, my first line piece of advice is go spend a day with Jeff and Shaun.
But I think with any device, because for our experience, when you get the device and you get the initial training, it's overwhelming. So I always tell people, no matter what they're buying, it's good to do that initial training, work with the machine for a while, and then revisit with a different training. Also, I feel like it's important to mention when we got the machine, we met with you. We listened to everything you had to say. We went to another practice, right?
Yeah.
Then we came back and kind of developed, based on multiple people's thought process and approach to it, and then kind of honed in on the skills that we have today.
But what it came down to is what facilitates nitrogen plasma energy transfer the best. We literally train on that. A lot of the spas that we train come in, and it's not just a NeoGen treatment that they need, as we find out. It's, hey, I'm failing. In every quadrant to my business. Financially, my back's up against the wall. I've got 6 machines, 6 glorified coat racks sitting there. I'm making payments on these devices. Rob's going to touch on that later, but basically what it comes down to is we feel you because we're literally in the same position, right? So when they come to us and they get a training, yes, it's a heavy intensive day of hands-on practical NeoGen PSR training. They get a whole lot of theory too, how nitrogen plasma energy transfer actually works, what devices play best with NeoGen PSR. They also get how to market this device and market effectively.
It's priceless.
And this is the type of stuff that, from soup to nuts, how, if you follow the same model, of that with NeoGen, there's no reason why you couldn't use that for your, body contouring device. And there's no reason why you couldn't use that for your, hormone, division of your practice and how you're going to, get people in, because it's always a cause and effect.
And
You guys really do share your secrets, which is wonderful.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think to kind of wrap up this consult part, I have a couple questions. You know, a lot of providers charge for a consult. What is your theory behind that?
So my theory is no. We would never charge for a consult. You know, I'm just going to tell you, it's and this is notwithstanding, you know, an appointment, you know, no show or, you know, a cancellation fee, you know, to that effect. But just to get them in, to give them a complimentary consult, is huge, because you know what, I literally haven't had it happen. They always book. I just told you, right? Listen, they're there. They're there to book. They got the money. If they don't book, they just don't trust you, right? So
In that free consultation
Yeah.
is an opportunity for you to have them trust you, build that relationship from the start.
It's tough when you're asking someone to pay you for
Right.
just advice, right? It kind of just makes the whole experience look very expensive and be like, I don't even know you.
Well, yeah, I've never been in a med spa before, and they just charged me $150 just to talk to them. I mean, where am I?
Makes
You
feel
know,
like you're at the lawyer's office.
it's not exactly welcoming.
Well, even lawyers do free consults.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'll just say this. You know, I always use this example recently, right? And it's like, what would you rather do? Would you rather do 30 clients, you know, at $3,000 with a $150 consultation fee, or would you rather do 300 clients at $750 with zero consultation fee? I'll wait. No, I already know what you're going to do, right? The problem is most places do, you know, use option A, right? And a lot of these spas that we work with, the ones that are like, you know, weeks from closing their doors forever, right, are the ones that have the highest price tickets, and they charge a nickel and dime for every single thing. And it's like, you know what? That stinks like fear to the end user, right? And it's intimidating.
I think that you, to Rob's point, you did set yourself up to be able to offer that, right? I feel like a lot of people are the injector, they're also the energy-based user, and then they're also giving console. So maybe that's why they're giving their fee. But do you think it makes more sense to have someone solely do consults?
Well, so
Depends who it is, I would
It
imagine.
depends on the practice too, yeah.
It depends on the practice. A lot of practices utilize patient coordinators. I want to be very clear. I absolutely support patient coordinators. I think they're invaluable. I think as long as your dynamic can support that, you know, an area of expertise for somebody, that's all they do. I do most of our consults with our practice, you know. So I guess, you know, other than being, you know, our social media guy, our business owner, our front desk guy, and our, you know, I'm also our patient coordinator. You know, that's really what it comes down to. But I'm also, you know, my most important job is that patient follow-up that we had already touched on. You know, I really feel like when you have somebody that's in that role that can do consults, I always joke, I say the providers get them from the happiest time in their life. They're there to get a treatment. Of course they're excited. I get them for the, you know, the 5 days of greasy follow-up, and then I'm married to them for 30, 60, 90 days. I'm the guy that's, you know, who's held accountable for their results, right? So I want to make sure I keep them on track with their aftercare, because I know how important that is for them to get that result. And I'm the one that's going to laugh with them and I'm going to cry with them. But you know what? I'm also the guy that they're going to give consent to absolutely share my results.
Yeah, I love that. You built trust.
I think regardless of, you know, whether you are a med spa owner, whether you are a distributor like us, or whether you own a trucking company, the most important thing is not the product, it's the people behind the product. And that is, I think that's the one thing that everybody at this table understands. If you do not have the right people behind the product, you can have the best product in the world and you will fail. And one of the reasons NeoGen has succeeded from a sales standpoint or a distribution standpoint, not to toot our own horns, but it's because of Angela and I. We were the right people to take on the distribution of this company. And I can tell you right now, if the manufacturer ever decided to go to another company, I can tell you right now that there's nobody else that's going to be able to do what we have done for this brand.
And we've seen that, right? And I think that was an issue, I think, for both of you.
And I hope they're listening.
I think that was an issue for both of you, is you had med spas with this device not creating good results, so you were combating that. There's a lot of information online from distributors who bought this, who sold this device to med spas without our training, without our protocols, right? So you're fighting against that. You're
people.
seeing that ablative downtime that, you know, which we don't even use. And when you're selling a device, it's like, hey, this med spa up down the street's had this for 3 years, and they don't even.
Well, let me ask you this. I use the word serendipitous that our first sale was to these guys. Now, we could have sold our first 3 or 4 devices to some certain people that we all know, and that would have been that could have been a recipe for disaster. So, you know, there was a little bit of luck in all of this.
Fortunate to find people who are equally passionate to learn and advance an entire energy. This is what it is. We have learned and advanced this energy in ways that it was nobody's baby.
So the term I think you're searching for, Angela and Rob, is, you know, I think I looked at you and I said, we're going to drive this shit like we stole it. I don't even think you understand. You didn't just walk into Tom, Dick, and Larry's Med Spa or Betty Sue and Mary Lee. You know, this is, we are passionate about what we do. We actually work hard and smart. Mm-hmm. And once we get a device, that's the prerequisite, by the way. I don't have a very high opinion of most of the devices in this industry. I'm sorry. We've demoed them. I can't make sense of them. You know, they're built on a template where, you know, you come in, you get 6, 9, or 12 treatments, you keep them on the hook. You know, Rob will talk to you more about when these reps come in and they tell you about, hey, isn't this great? You can get them for this device. You can get them for 6 treatments right off the bat and make $8,000. And you know what? They'll be back next year to do that. And I would argue that's unethical, okay? Because if your device was worth a damn to begin with, okay, you wouldn't be offering that to them, right? So here's the thing, is if you want to give them something that, you know, delivers out of the park home run results, it's NeoGen PSR. Guess what? You won't have to worry about them coming back for more treatments because they'll bang the door down. Everybody that gets a NeoGen PSR treatment, I tell them, hey, why don't you wait 2 years? One good treatment will continue to build for 12 to 24 months. You want to know what happens? About 50% of those people are banging my door down at 6 months. They want to come back in and get another treatment. I tell you right now. And then about another 25% of them are at that 1 year mark. And the rest of them are somewhere in between, all right? But the difference is they're not coming alone. They're coming with their neighbors. They're coming with their cousins. They're coming with their friends. They're coming with that, you know, the person they can't even stand in their life because they have to look at them. They're bringing them in, right, to get NeoGen PSR. Hey, I'm going to give you a gift. I'm buying you NeoGen for your treatment, okay?
Damn ugly. Come with me.
I promise you I will improve the way you look, and then we'll all be happy, okay?
I love it. I love it.
But it also goes back to the passion behind it, right? Because we've been in some practices where we're like, what's the struggle? Well, the business owner is not a provider, right? And she's relying on her providers to be passionate about the treatment. And
you have great providers, by the way.
Yeah, but I think the practices that we go to are struggling. The provider is not sold on the technology or the technique, or maybe not educated appropriately to be able to put that onto the client.
And usually,
Understand it.
Right.
and usually that's it. Angela hit the nail right on the head. Is they don't understand how the technology works. Look, NeoGen is not entry level. Okay, it's not just put the paddles on the body, hit the button, walk away. You know, go do something else, and let the patient just jiggle there for 25 minutes. NeoGen PSR is, you need skill. All right, you need to be the type of provider that you have, you know, the skill and the art to be able to not only diagnose energy level, but to be able to paint with it. I always say with Shaun, you ever notice a great makeup artist that's good at contouring, right? Using the darker pigments and the lighter pigments. Well, he's doing that with energy and different energy levels when he does a combination treatment, okay? And the result is absolutely jaw-dropping, absolutely stunning, you know, at a place where, you know, most people can't even believe it. And that's when you give your all to a patient like that. That's when you're going to get, you know, those referrals. We built our business before and after was ever posted on word of mouth. I told it during the last podcast. I'll say it again. We had gotten the NeoGen PSR with 0 before and afters between the months of November and January of that year, and 0 advertisement for NeoGen PSR. We just did 20 treatments and set them out into the wild. By the time January 6th rolled around, okay, we're talking, you know, not even 3 months. It's like really 2 months there. We had done 150 NeoGen PSR treatments. and we had, another 250 booked. This is all word of mouth before and after. Nobody knew we had the machine. They had just seen people we had treated.
Again, I think it boils down to having an effective consult and building trust. And I noticed, and actually that's how I met you. I was working with a couple med spas. One med spa had an Image Pro device, a brand new med spa. The other med spa did not have an Image Pro device, but they've been in the industry for, I would say, about 3 to 5 years. And I was realizing that the med spa that had the Image Pro device was actually doing more NeoGen treatments than the other med spa. And I was trying to figure out why. And she had told me that every time someone came in, she put their face in front of the Image Pro. And she was struggling with holding a consult. So she let that tool help her hold an effective consult.
And the tool we're talking about is the EmergentMedTech Pro. It is a digital camera and imaging system, which has the ability to look within the skin and show what it lays there to the client in front of you and give them a detailed report, an analysis of all the areas of weakness and strengths within their skin, and show the measurable changes.
It's great because
and not everybody's going to have, I would say, the salesmanship or the ability to connect with the buyer or a customer like a Jeff Spano says. It's just he's a rare find. But if you have a tool like the Image Pro, that is going to be more or less kind of your training wheels, if you will, in order to get these patients from prospect to converted to a buyer. So Image Pro is a wonderful tool. It's not expensive in the grand scheme of things, and the ROI is just tremendous.
They realize that there's about a 20% increase in revenue from consults when using the Image Pro, because you can talk about so many different things: facial symmetry, skin tone, texture, laxity. And the great thing about everything that device talks about, NeoGen can take care of in a one-and-done treatment.
I mean, you just touched on it. I mean, those changes that you really can't see on the surface yet, and you weren't supposed to anyway, because we're waiting for that, third, fourth, fifth month. With the Image Pro, you can actually see them happening, in real time, and I think that that's just invaluable for the patient. And there's always going to be those standard things they ask, like again, what's the pain level? What's the downtime? I had a woman in the other day, Helen. She's, arguably, she had the worst skin I've ever seen in my life. I'll just say it. And she just, she had gone through years of smoking and drinking and this behavior that she's turned over a new leaf and she's ready for a new look. Well, and she just, she's not there yet, and she said to me, well, what's the downtime like? And I'm like, it's going to be about 5 days. And she goes, really? 5 days? I got to hide from society? And I'm like, thinking to myself,
But you're walking around with that
I'm like, you're scaring children like right now. I mean, I'll pay you to check out of society for 5 days. Are you kidding me, Helen? My God, you look like it's. Thank God it's October, because I mean, at least you can say it's like, I don't know, but we laugh. We have to have that.
I do talk about one thing that I find that's a bit controversial. So, I've noticed that people that say they did not get a good NeoGen result, they never came back for a follow-up photo.
There's a couple things that always, thank you for bringing that up. I think this is very important, and I think this is very important to cover here. Hey, here's the thing that we train in our courses, and it's really 4 demandments, right, for NeoGen PSR, in case anybody's wondering. So it's proper consult energy diagnosis. That is so important. It's one of the wheels on the vehicle, right? It doesn't roll without that. Number 2 is aftercare follow-up. I have never seen a treatment in my life. What happens if you don't follow the aftercare with an ablative treatment? You could get an infection. Worst thing could happen. If you don't follow the aftercare correctly with NeoGen PSR, you're not going to get a great result. That's part of the reason why they send me a picture. 5 days of recovery, 10 days of recovery. That's another wheel that's on the vehicle right there, okay? There's another little piece over here, and it's literally that hydration factor, okay? So hydration factor during treatment, but hydration afterwards. We talk about 12 to 24 ounces of electrolytes, how when you consume salt, right, the smallest amounts, i.e. electrolytes, it causes you to retain more fluid at a cellular level, and why that's so important. That's another wheel on the car that rolls, okay? That other little wheel that you're wondering about is basic skincare. You'd be surprised at how many people don't have a good moisturizer. It's, I bought some stuff at Bradley's. I'm like, Bradley's closed 20 years ago. What are you talking? Bradley's? Ann and Hope? Where did you go? And they're like, well, I got this from Bradley's. I'm like, my God. So, All right, let's get you on some basic skincare, because another little secret, little gem here I'll give you about NeoGen PSI. When they finish recovery, right, when they're done with their 5 days aftercare recovery, and they're ready to roll, it's so beneficial for them to be on basic skincare. I would say permanently, but really critically for 60 days after NeoGen PSI treatment. Critically important. That's another wheel on the vehicle. So when you get those 4 wheels on the vehicle, baby, you're rolling. And when we don't get a result, it just means that one of those things didn't happen. Now, it could have been on the provider. Maybe we diagnosed the energy wrong, too little or too much, right? Maybe they didn't follow aftercare. I never got a picture for them. They said, "Screw it, I'm not gonna put this goop on my face. I'm not, whatever." They didn't hydrate like they're supposed to. Maybe they would, on a bender the whole weekend before, and they decided to come in all dehydrated, and they were going to get NeoGen. Not going to get a result. Or maybe they just didn't follow basic skincare after the fact. You do those 4 things, you get the results that our clients get.
But let me just say something real quick. There are people out there that do get a result, but they see themselves in the mirror every single day. So the perception is that the treatment didn't work. I'll give you an example. We treated a friend of ours at one of our advanced training courses a couple of weeks ago, and we just saw her the other day, and she's about 2 weeks into the treatment. I go, "How do you like it?" And she says, "Well, I really didn't see much." I said, "Well, I could tell you, I don't look at you every day. You got a dramatic result." So Angela took a picture of her. Luckily she had the before picture of her. She stitched it, so you had juxtaposed before and after. And I mean, she looks 10 years younger.
Oh, and honestly, I can tell you, I'm to this day, I'm shocked. I don't know why we do this. We've done just about 6,000 treatments at this point. Not only more treatments than any provider in the world, we've done more treatments than all providers combined by far. And you know what the funny thing is you have ladies that come in and they'll say, I don't see anything. My husband says he does, and my sister does, and she usually never gives me compliments, but I don't see anything. But they're saying they see it, and then we put the photos together, and they're like, wow. You can see those minute changes, and it's slow at first, but then it rolls, and then you really, really start to see the big
Slow
change.
at first.
You start taking those after photos. If they're not those after photos, you're not putting it with a before photo and showing the client. You have to understand the human brain only has the ability to see what's in front of it. It doesn't give you a blueprint memory of what you looked like 3 weeks ago, a year ago, 6 months ago.
But,
you must have that before and after.
And I could tell you, we've done demos, right, where we've had the sales rep go in, and they didn't do what they were supposed to do. They did not get the after photos from the provider, and the perception is that NeoGen didn't do its job, and we'd lost the sale. But NeoGen, even if it always works. You always get some type of result.
I was going to say, there's a result, and then there's a perceived result that they really want, right? That might be a surgical result. But I think even if they don't follow one of those 4 steps, there hasn't been one person that I've seen a photo of that has not had any change after the treatment.
Oh, but I will say we if it's done right, we are getting a surgical like result. So let's take for example the 2022 Aesthetic Guide Awards.
Right.
Page 76 and page 77. One was best surgical facial rejuvenation enhancement, and on the other page it was best non-surgical rejuvenation enhancement. So what I would do is I would cover that up and I would ask potential prospects which one's the surgical one. And guess what they picked most of the time? They picked the picture of Nana.
He's talking about Shaun's grandmother, and something, she absolutely did get a beyond surgical result from NeoGen PSR. And I won't get into the ins and outs about it, but I will say this. When you're doing a follow-up with the patient, save those photos, right? So we always send them a copy of their before and after. They get it. That's theirs as far as I see it. But I keep their 30, 60, 90, 120, right? So when they start looking amazing somewhere along the line, what's great is I can literally post a quadrant. I can show you the journey, right? Oftentimes, I was dealing with a med spa. They're like, well, we don't save the photos. I'm like, what? Well, we don't have the bandwidth. I'm like, I'll buy you a flash drive. Like, what is it going to require here, But save those photos because they're invaluable.
But I love that you do that because it does show the progression. But I also see that some people that you post have their result that they're looking for at 9 months.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you know, and I want to tell you, so sorry to bust any bubbles here. I'm going to tell you the truth. This is my experience, right? And so part of that setting expectation for NeoGen PSR and an excellent result, and I tell everybody this multiple times. I say, you've picked the best treatment there is on the market today. So NeoGen, provided the correct energy is used in your treatment, will continue to build results for the next 12 to 24 months slowly. But here's the deal. I expect to see great things start to happen with you around 6 months. Now, honestly, I think it's going to happen around the 4th and 5th month. We're going to start seeing it then. But I'm setting expectation because you know what? Some people do take 6. There is that one-off. The ones that get me in trouble are the ones that come in 60 days, and they really, really are looking amazing. And that happens. And
Or 3 weeks.
I try not to post those. I really, I try not to post those from an ethical standpoint because you know what? If they're an outlier, in the beginning I did, but it's like now it's like, my God, people expect that. So it's really important to state it has no bearing on your age. It's more on your skin condition quality and how you take care of it and your hydration level, and you can expect to see a result start to present anywhere between 30 days and 6 months. But guess what? Here's what I'll give you with NeoGen PSR. Once you start looking fabulous, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, what you get with NeoGen, you keep with NeoGen. You get massive fibroblast growth, collagen development, and elastin reformation. You don't get that with any other treatment on the market today. So what you get with NeoGen is literally considered permanent after that 24-month period because your body has a harder time consuming fibroblasts and elastin than it does your standard collagen. So
So let me just say something. So this is the only energy-based modality out there that actually has regenerative properties. What we're seeing right now in the industry, the aesthetics business, is a convergence between regenerative medicine and aesthetics. So if you are looking for that device where it has those crossover capabilities, I don't think there's a better device that you could invest in than NeoGen.
I mean, I'll be on the phone with a plastic surgeon, this afternoon that is going to adopt NeoGen PSR into his practice. There's a wellness clinic in Virginia, which, they have found that from their wellness, and they're not even a med spa. They don't really offer, things other than, their standard. They're more of a holistic approach, but they know that NeoGen is right from their practice. Now, you do the math. I got a plastic surgeon over here. I got a wellness clinic over here. Who's in the middle? All of your med spas, all of your dermatologists, and that is really why NeoGen is a device that runs the full gambit for any medically charged aftermarket aesthetic practice.
And one of the things Angela tasked our head of our commercial team with is we've got to change our messaging a little bit. And the messaging has got to be focused on this is going to repair all the dermal damage that you've done over the years. This is more of a conversation about dermal health and the aesthetic outcome being a consequence of bringing the tissue back to dermal health.
I am so sorry to interject. I have to. This is amazing that he just said that. I was having a conversation with a doctor that came in for training the other day, and she had a very interesting theory about ablation. And she said to me, when you ablate the body, yes, you're going to get small amounts of collagen back through wound or trauma-based response. But guess what? Your body also shuts down most of its systems and processes. And I know that from...
Because it's a wound.
And I know that from... let me not get in trouble here and mention something without mentioning it. Cryolipolysis, right? That is freezing fat to cause, glycopids and triglycerides to actually...
cellular death.
But what happens is normally if you had those fat cells giving up their triglycerides and glycopids, they would be processed through your lymph system right through your liver. But that process stops the minute that you have destruction or ablation. So guess what? Those glycopids and triglycerides have to end up getting deposited somewhere else, and that's why certain devices for the body don't work. Well, her theory was if you're continuously ablating, right, the skin. Yeah, you're going to get a little bit of a benefit in the form of collagen, but that damage, it's not free. It's cumulative, right? It's cumulative. We talked initially about how lasers literally strip away energy and how nitrogen plasma builds, restores that energy. So to your point, for those that have done ablative treatments, microneedling, fractionalized microneedling treatments, CO2 fractional treatments over the years, you need NeoGen PSR.
in the skin.
You need it. You need it because, we've talked to plastic surgeons and they'll tell you, you can tell the ladies that did CO2 fractional a couple times. You can tell it when you do a lift. You can see it in the quality of in the thickness of their skin.
While we're
I
talking,
had a plastic surgeon this past week in Dallas or Houston, Dallas, say the same thing. They tossed out their RF microneedling device because the scarring that occurs subdermally that we never see, we never notice, actually interfere in the process of a deep clean facelift. How much trauma could there be to interfere in a deep clean?
Well, when a plastic surgeon, we're actually very good friends. We'll throw him a plug. Dr. David Wages in Peabody is an amazing plastic surgeon, and he'll tell you, when you're doing subcision, under the skin, you can tell, like when you do a normal lift, there's a certain amount of subcision that you have to do to break up that scarring. Well, guess what? When your plastic surgeon's in there and he's like wiping like he's in a monsoon in Florida, okay, trying to get that, it's creating more trauma, but it has to happen in order for it to operate correctly.
So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the modalities that you're using with NeoGen. What can you use with NeoGen? Is there a need to use them with NeoGen? We talked a little bit about IPL. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, so first, pre-NeoGen, some modalities that we use for hydration. We have Dermafuse that we use. You can use hydrofacial, Eve, Apollo, anything that's going to drive hydration into the tissue pre-treatment to get the best results. IVs play a factor for some people.
electroporation works incredibly well, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Right? Apollo?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Apollo
Yeah.
proliferation.
And then Eve, hydrodermabrasion. Yeah.
So they
Yeah,
work
both
in the
great.
same.
So
Both great for rehydration.
yeah. So all those we like pre. Pretty much the only modality we use in conjunction same day as NeoGen is our BBL, or if people have a standard IPL. I think you have Cervelo. Yeah?
No, that's
That's
hair removal.
Oh, hair
We don't
removal,
have an
sorry.
IPL
Oh,
right now
okay.
'cause
Yeah.
There's not one made in the U.S. that I love.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
And-
available.
But that's
We're open to suggestions.
that is providing some excellent results for pigment correction with people that have a lot of sun damage, skin damage.
So is the BBL lifting the pigment?
Yeah,
And
so
then-
so I always explain it to the client like the BBL or IPL is lifting pigment out, and NeoGen is kind of sweeping it away during the same healing process.
Yeah, because people don't understand that the pigment lives in every layer of the skin. Now, optimal depth of penetration for one client might be 1.8 joules, but the pigment might live at that in the reticular dermis, and it's going to rise when you've cleared off the pigment
So,
of that.
Angela, what results are patients seeing immediately off the table when getting a NeoGen treatment, and what are they seeing the months to follow?
Well, first of all, it's not a result off the table, it's a preview. So that dynamic tightening is occurring as the thermal aspect of the energy is contracting existing collagen fibers, existing elastin fibers. So they're getting a dynamic contraction at first, and then you get some erythema, so it plumps everything out and it makes it look pretty. That can happen right off the table, and that is their preview. And I will tell people, this gives me an idea of how you're going to heal. And that's why I need to set you up, because if you're not even now, you're not going to be even, because NeoGen is capable of dynamic lifting in certain vectors, depending on how you want it to go. So we actually have to make sure they're balanced before we send them on their way, or they can heal that way. But the actual results, I am seeing now results and true results at the 2-week mark, the 3-week mark, the 4-week mark. Now, those still continue to improve over time. An optimal result is still occurring 3 months to 9 months. But I am seeing 10 years younger in 2 to 3 weeks now.
And when you say result, what is it that you're seeing on their skin?
Primarily the smoothing of the texture, the balancing of the tone, the shrinking of the pores, the filling in of the wrinkles, and dynamic lift. The lift is got to be everything, isn't it?
When do you see the pigment?
Pigment's going usually within that first 1 to 3 months. Everyone thinks if it doesn't flake off following treatment, it's going to stay. No, it just lightens and lightens and lightens and lightens. Now, if you're lucky, you're going to get some of it that just flakes off. Almost like if you do an IPL to shatter pigment, you get coffee grounds. It looks like a little deposit on the skin. It flakes away when you heal. With NeoGen, some pigment may flake, but it generally, as that nitrogen plasma energy transfer stimulates the mitochondria, turns on the mechanisms of restoration, then it's slowly clearing over time.
I mean, you got to remember your skin's actually turning over, at a rapid rate anyway, independent of any treatment that you have. And that was beautifully put, by the way. So when you're actually supercharging the skin, let's talk about that for a second. You're supercharging that process. So you're going to get layers and layers and layers of skin that are rapidly, turning over the coming months. And, the complexion we see when they come in is just amazing after NeoGen PSR. It's
And to Angela's point, we do see people come back within the first month. Sometimes the pigment looks a little darker, but on month 2, month 3, it is lightening. So some of the people with that deeper pigment, I think that the rising is still happening over that first 6-8 weeks.
While on pigment, what is this doing for melasma?
Oh, we're getting beautiful clearance of melasma, but melasma is an animal, and that's what I call it, that has to be a journey. It's not a come in, I'm going to treat you and you're done. You must use proper skincare with melasma. You must be aware that lifestyle affects it. And no matter what, no matter how much clearance you get on the surface, and it can be beautiful and well controlled, the day you go out in 90-degree weather and wear a baseball cap and you're sweating, if you have melasma, and I'm speaking as someone that does have melasma, I'm going to have a brown line right there 2 days later.
But, the hormone balance aspect of it that we had talked about earlier, the compounding, the prescription skincare, for, hydroquinone and retonic acids that can actually be used in conjunction with the NeoGen PSR treatment after the fact. These things are your treatment plan, so back to that vein of consult. Yes, we start with one NeoGen PSR, but there's a treatment plan here for most patients where it involves skincare, high quality skincare, and it involves, other modalities that would also be beneficial to them.
That's great. Before we move on to the emergent method, I do want to state that I love that NeoGen can bring back the client every month, right? Because who doesn't want their client to come back every month, right? Because while you're taking their before and after photo, hey, check out this other technology that I have. Check out this new protocol. Check out this. Check out that.
If you want a number, it's about 60%. That literally, when I book them for a follow up, they say, "Well, what else can I do while I'm there?" Yeah. And I just want to highlight, this summer for quite a lot of businesses that we spoke to, they had kind of witnessed a slowing, I think, and they had witnessed. We didn't see that. We just didn't see that. And when we're talking to other providers and they're saying, "Oh, it just." This was a rough one for us and still is kind of a rough one. We wonder if you had a process of being able to bring them back after an incredible NeoGen PSR treatment, if that would have still been an issue.
Oh, I have one point that I really want to get out because I've noticed this more and more throughout offices in the United States. When I go in when people attend an advanced training, I always ask them, bring some of your before and afters that you don't love, and let's discuss the cases. What I'm finding is happening more and more. Practices don't understand that neocollagenesis is not an instantaneous process. The growth of new collagen can be disrupted, damaged, or broken by starting another treatment that disrupts it. So if you have had your NeoGen treatment, if you've invested in it, don't let someone talk you into RF microneedling a month later or anything aggressive within that healing process, because you're going to stop it.
Makes sense.
And my providers are trying to sell treatments way before the skin should be treated with anything.
Hey, here's the deal. She said with anything, I'm gonna blow the lid off this thing. That includes another NeoGen PSR treatment.
It does, yes.
Right, because you're going to destroy those fibroblast bonds that are just forming. So if you go somewhere and they're telling you, hey, we're going to do, 3 treatments of NeoGen PSR in quick concession, like you're in for some dime store microneedling, listen, walk out the door. The only time you would do multiple NeoGen PSR treatments is in Fitzpatrick 4, 5, or 6, and that is a lot longer of an interval, and that is something that is it could take 9 months to get through that series to do it correctly. But if you're somewhere else and it seems like they're trying to cash in, hey, guess what? They probably are.
Interesting.
And with the whole process of when to do the second and third, if you're doing low energy, the manufacturer says 3 weeks to a month, because that's when full reepithelialization happens. And that is the written advice. But like everything else we've learned about NeoGen, everyone's skin is individual, and this treatment is totally customizable. And we can look at you in the treatment process, which is why those patients need to send photos in and say, you know what, you're ready now.
And that's where your Emerge Pro comes in. And, honestly, you're able to look, peel back the curtain, if you will, and see if they're ready, quite frankly. It's not uncommon for us to say, hey, we're going to need to see you again before we make a determination on your second treatment, which is highly possible.
But speaking about the written information from NeoGen, I think everyone at this table does a really good job bending that and really pushing like that. And that takes us to our new emergent method.
Yes, which we are naming so that treatment will have an actual name, and we are calling it NeoLift.
Amazing.
Thank you very much. And NeoLift is just really came about by dumb luck, trying to find a way for me, who is extremely sensitive, after my accident that 9 years ago, that most people that know me know about, that caused the scar, that caused them to buy the device, right?
How was that?
When after that accident, my skin is so sensitive. My face is sensitive, even to the touch. So my pain response is elevated way beyond what anyone should be. And trying to find a way to make it more comfortable for myself and for people like me led to this. So in Korea, they've been for at least 7 or 8 years using hyaluronic acid mixed with sterile water, making a spray out of it, 3-to-1 ratio, 3 parts sterile water to 1 part hyaluronic, and spraying the skin with it. And that makes the energy transfer go in smoother. And for low energy, it was enough that you didn't need to do numbing at 0.8. And I will say most people do require it at 0.8. They're just not super comfortable. Or not require, but like it better. For me, it was, I need higher energy. I'm 59, going on 60 years old. Just low isn't going to do it for me. I need some heavy lifting now and then. And to make it comfortable, I also don't really like numbing. I'm reactive to numbing. So I was trying to find a way to make it more comfortable for people like me, following on or piggybacking on the work that Korea did. And so I had found this gel that actually comes from Korea that's full of beautiful botanicals and panthenol and adenosine and all these wonderful skin boosters. And I was using it to pre-hydrate the skin because it was working better than any topical face mask I could find. I have a hydrometer, and it was real easy to go and measure, post. And I found I could get an almost 40% boost in hydration topically when I used this gel for 15 minutes prior to treatment. So I started using it in lieu of a face mask. And one day I fired through it because I didn't realize I had missed a spot right. And I was actually in an office doing a demo. We were waiting in between patients, and I don't wait well. So I was like, I got a little, I'll just do some 0.6 and I went right through the gel, and I didn't realize the gel was still on, and I fired through it. Didn't feel a thing. Of course, you don't feel much at 0.6 anyway, but it just made my wheels turn, and so then I started experimenting with it. And I really believe, and this is just my belief because we haven't done experiments on it, I have treated now about 200 or more patients this way, and I have other providers treating this way. And for some reason, the final result comes quicker, and there is no pain. But more remarkably, we are getting thermal energy. We're negating some of the effects of thermal energy on the skin.
It's actually all the effects of thermal energy, and the proof of that is when they do the emergent method and they put that gel coating. So the energy, the electrons, the plasma fires through those electrons right into the mitochondria. You get that reaction, but the thermal energy is not an aspect because as soon as they wipe the gel off, guess what? the person literally looks like they had nothing done.
Like they had nothing.
And they can, go back to work that day.
Time treatment.
They could literally get that treatment at lunch and go back to work. But here's the thing: the fact that they're getting a result, right? They're getting a great result, proves how awesome and unique NeoGen is, right? Because now, you got a treatment where it's not relying on thermal, right? And that nitrogen plasma energy transfer is doing things that ablative treatment just can't.
So what is the gel doing to the heat? What is the downtime like?
What's happening? There is no downtime. So there's no downtime. I've had, out of about 200 cases, I've seen red marks left on maybe 2 to 4%. And they're very few. You might have one spot that's red where we added extra energy, but the rest of the face, it just looks better. They get off the table looking better, and then they just continue to look better. Now, I'm working out optimal post-care, which is kind of bizarre to me. The one thing that I am continuing absolutely is actual electrolyte supplementation 2 weeks post-treatment, 24 ounces a day of electrolytes. The body still needs that for the mechanism of action. And I like to use just a simple light occlusive for 48 hours. But I'm finding at that 48-hour mark, they're able to go on to something lighter, whether it's an HA serum. So something that's got deep hydration, but not goopy, okay? And they're able to go from that point to their own skincare on day 4.
Are you using all energy levels, or are you only staying on low?
Levels.
And the pain tolerance has been
0 pain.
Wow. And the same day
I
pain.
can't say 0. I would say the highest pain response I've had is a 2 out of 10.
Same downtime. All energy levels, right?
All
Really
energy
not
levels,
much
no
downtime.
She's actually counting. So with this emergent method, actually boosting the energy level, and actually accounting for the gel layer. So there's a little bit more science behind it than we're even explaining at the moment. But a 0.8 might all of a sudden be a 1.7. Yeah, or higher.
Yeah.
And it depends on the thickness and the layer of your gel. It depends on what you're trying to achieve. So it's a whole nother art form with that treatment method, which just also speaks to the dynamic device and what it's capable of. We've just scratched the surface.
I love it more for the sculpting abilities than anything else. I can reshape someone's face dynamically by using this gel because I can use much higher energy where I want to. So up under those cheekbones, I might go to 3 joules and just create that dynamic lift, or back behind the ear.
And this is an advance.
This is an advanced procedure because you don't see where you have treated.
Mm.
You have to know. I know Shaun could do this treatment upside down with a blindfold on in the dark, and he would deliver a perfect treatment every time.
Right.
If you cannot deliver a perfect treatment, knowing that patient's gotten full coverage, then you can't do it.
And I've seen some other methods from some other devices where, literally there'd be like a tic-tac-toe chessboard drawn on someone's face. The problem is I'm looking at a treatment from one of these providers and the lines are about 1/8 of an inch thick. I'm like, would you draw that with a Sharpie? And the thing is they're missing 7 millimeter line pulses all the way through. So I'm like, you add that up and you're missing 20, maybe even 30% of the face. It's ridiculous. So as Angela would tell you and as Shaun would tell you, the best thing you can do during a treatment is to really just tune in and tune out and focus and really just make sure you're paying attention to what you're pulsing, and you need to know where you've been. And that's just another reason why this isn't a set it and forget it. It's one of those things where you got to pay attention to what you're doing.
And this gel is
with the NeoLift method. I'm trying to learn to call it that because that's what I'm calling it. With the NeoLift method, you will use more of your consumables because we do apply more energy. We apply more pulses. It does allow the energy to go in like a knife through butter, which is why the patient's it's delivered at 10 milliseconds. So if we can cut the amount of time the skin has time to register the heat, which is what the gel is doing, then it's going in through like a knife through butter and you're not feeling. You just don't have the chance to feel it. But at the same time, we have to go higher energy to cut through And we do have to deliver a few more pulses than you traditionally would.
You're increasing impedance, even though it's called the low impedance gel. By using the gel as a medium, you're increasing impedance anyway. So it's back to with the NeoLift technique. You're actually relearning how to administer your energy level, which is which is just more of a science.
Now, are clinics charging premium for the no downtime, no pain, more consumable,
We
or
could, but
yeah.
I don't advise it. That's generally what I say is, yes, it does cost a little more, but you are saving so much money delivering this treatment because they're on and off the table in 30 minutes. You're not using
No numbing.
cream, which we all know is expensive.
And having the ability to market a treatment like this with no downtime, no numbing, I mean, that's game changing for a practice. It's game changing for the entire industry.
And
it's
Don't advise
there's
people.
no other company that can boast that.
right. Well, I mean, they really could. I think ultimately you're always going to have those those patients that come in and they say, "Look, I have a window. I
have to look perfect in 4 days.
I need to get treatment here. I don't have time for this," and that's where NeoLift is going to be an absolute game changer.
And you've been doing this for almost a year now.
Almost a year now.
So you're able to see that the results continue to improve. So it's really,
What's really stunning me as someone who's been doing this for so long is now with practice, my results are getting so much better
I believe it.
and so much faster. So it's all a process of learning and taking the time. I won't be ready to teach a master's class. Like I introduced it at our advanced training because so many people are asking for it. But there won't be a master's class for this for probably another 6 months to a year.
yeah. And I love that, a device with a 95% ROI, we've added more ROI because we've cut down
Time is money.
exactly, we've cut down the time that the patient is taking up a room numbing. So that patient is not numbing anymore. They're coming in, they're getting treated immediately and leaving in 25 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, I did one on film from the patient sitting down, pre-hydrating to patient leaving. It was 26 minutes.
It's amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
And that stands to reason because that's about the portion of the treatment that you are pulsing anyway, and you're cutting out a lot of that numbing and prehydration because in essence, you're hydrating while you're treating. So
Are you finding that you're seeing you have the ability to treat more patients with this?
I'm
method?
going to throw it right out there. So we are in the process of still clinical trials over here at Shaun Charles MedSpa with the NeoLift procedure. We are psychos at the end of the day. We have not rolled it out to the mass public yet. But trust when we tell you we have probably about 100 patients in process right now. And we are working out. So we don't like to launch anything on our own until we're experts at it. It's the same as it was with standard NeoGen. It was the same as it is with this. We need to be able to speak with authority. We need to be able to say, to the masses, we can diagnose your energy as correctly with NeoLift as we can with, the standard Shaun Charles method right now, and we are not there yet, but we will be.
You will be.
Yeah. And I also want to say that stands to reason to something you guys said earlier. I don't know if everybody cued on, on. They don't have an IPL device because they haven't found a good one that's made in the U.S. And Rob said they're open to suggestions. These aren't independent distributors. EmergentMedTech that's just going to carry any old piece of junk, from another,
We're a legitimate company as any manufacturer. We have a real infrastructure.
But the stringent protocols that you guys follow to be able to find the device that you can slap an Emergent label on and say this is under our umbrella of what we have is amazing. So I always I'm kind of razzing Rob to say, hey, expose this industry, right? For those that are at home, expose this industry and what us med spa owners go through. There's nobody at this table that knows more about these tactics that are employed by. There he goes. She's reluctant, as I want to say, but it's one of these things where take it from us sitting on this side of the table that EmergentMedTech is just very different. You know, you don't get the feeling, you know, I was shocked to find when I sat down with Rob to purchase, you know, NeoGen PSR, he wanted to do a financial, you know, workup on our med spa. And I thought it was to see if we, you know, of course we could afford it. He just wanted to make sure we were purchasing at the right time for us as a business. Now, I guarantee you're not going to encounter that with anyone else. Okay. They just want you to sign the credit form, right? They just want you to like sign on the dotted line whether or not it's going to sink your business or not when you make this expensive purchase. He was more interested in doing the ethical thing and making sure that, you know, we could afford it first. That's something I never accounted before, and it certainly got my attention. So I wish you'd talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll just speak to this. I'll speak to the fact that if a rep ever comes in and say, hey, this is an ATM machine, run as fast as you can. These are not ATM machines. It doesn't matter if you have the best device in the world like NeoGen. If you don't have the right team or the right people behind the product, you don't have the right go-to-market strategy, the right marketing folks helping you promote the brand. If you don't have, I guess, the financial means to kind of support the growth, then you're going to have a very hard time being successful. The reality is, I would say anywhere between 30 to 35% of all startup med spas go out of business within the first 12 months.
And I mean, we all know of a story that's an absolute true story of a spa owner that we know. You know, she had a company, we'll just say, come in and, you know, they tried one of these with her. Hey, you know, we're gonna drop this machine off, and we're gonna drop that machine off, and we're gonna drop that machine off, and risk-free, by the way. We just need you to sign these forms if you don't mind, okay? Risk-free, and you're gonna trial these machines for a period of time, and you know, and if you don't like them, we'll take them back. Well, guess what? She was signing. She purchased those 3 machines,
Oof.
right? She had to hire legal counsel, okay, and spend tens of thousands of dollars to be able to get out of I don't even know if she got out of the contract. She did not get out of the contract. So you're on the hook for $1 million. And now this is what I'm talking about that we've all experienced in this industry, right? I always say don't blame the rep. It's not the rep. The rep is hired by.
Yeah, it's a predatory industry. It's historically, over the last, I'd say, 15 years or so, it's been a very predatory industry. We just brought on a chief commercial officer, a gentleman by the name of Matt Donaldson. He's been in the industry for 20 plus years. And one of the reasons that he came aboard and joined Angel and I was because he's had the same vision. He wants to bring the industry to where it was back maybe in the early 2000s, when the device industry was much more legitimized, where there was much more science behind it. There was more education behind it. The vetting of the client from the company was heavily scrutinized. So we want to bring the business back to where it was. And it needs to go back to where it was, because there's just so much scorched earth out there. And I could tell you, as we sit here today in October of 2024, I believe it's caught up to all of these companies. You look at a lot of these companies right now. I mean, the economy's tough right now, but if you combine the current economy and the lending, how tough it is now, combined with the scorched earth and the awareness of the buyers now of how these companies have operated, the industry is going to be in rapid decline in my opinion.
It's tough.
So
to
it's
fight
forcing a lot of
supplies.
you looking at a lot of companies. They're going to be forced into consolidation.
Yeah.
And I think my vision was, Angela's vision was, a few years back, that there's huge opportunity in a company bringing great products to the market that work, but also doing the right thing.
And doing the right thing also involves, you know, developing a relationship. You know, we all know those, you know, companies that'll sell you a device, you never hear from them again. You'll be calling them, they're just not answering, you know, and it's like, you know, these guys, I mean, they did everything but move in.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to highlight, I mean.
Well, they come in, they're your best friend, and then when they sell you the device,
They're
grab
gone.
my best friend.
Yeah,
You know?
they're
They
gone.
disappear.
Just somebody that you used to know. But now, you know, here we are sitting at a table, you know, with a company that basically, you know, not only developed a relationship, but I mean, we were speaking on a daily basis. We still speak on
I
a
think
daily
Rob
basis.
did move in at one point.
I think
when
Rob
we
did
were
move
away.
in at one point.
For about a week and a half, yeah.
We were on, you know,
Get into why.
I just tell you the story. I mean, it's real quick. So the parent company of NeoGen, Energist, is a UK-based company. Of course, EmergentMedTech is a distributor, the sole distributor of NeoGen PSR in this country. But you know what happened is they had a little bit of an issue about a year and a half ago where Emergent switched manufacturers for the handpiece.
So Energist.
Energist,
yeah.
excuse me. I don't want to get that screwed up and basically, you know, it had a little bit of an issue that needed correcting. Well, you know, any other company would have told you, hey, you know, here's our customer service line. You know, we'll mail you out something, and you know, we were in Hawaii. You know, so I've got literally, you know, 3 machines firing all hours of the day, every single day, 36 treatments a day. I've got 7 providers sitting there, and they get their hands up in the air, and they're like, well, what's going on? And I said, hey, just to let you know, Rob and Angela didn't make these hand pieces last week over dinner. You know, they're dealing with an issue. But I'll tell you what, the fact that Rob has been there every single day, and he did correct the problem. You know, it took him, you know, but he was there every single day. And
That's how you run this company.
you know,
you mentioned,
I mean, hands on, you know.
yeah, you mentioned there was someone that needs to be retrained. You flew down there. You retrained them.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the emergent difference. That's what separates EmergentMedTech as a distributor from everyone else. Your quarterly advanced training, your 2-day hands-on training, your 90-day consult after getting a device, your 48-hour guarantee loaner. If a device goes down, we will get you another one within 48 hours because we understand that you're using this device.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what's going to happen. I mean, 2025, Jeff says all the time, 2025 is a year for NeoGen.
Mark my
And
words.
I-
It is the year.
I think we're going to start to reap the dividends from the fruits of our labor that we've put in over the years, and we're going to be a force to reckon with going into the new year. And I think what's going to happen is other people are going to take notice. People are already starting to take notice of what we're doing. But when that happens, other companies will follow suit, and that's where the transformation in this industry will take place. In my
Exactly
opinion.
right.
And, you know, when it comes down to it, we'll just say it. I mean, when you're talking about NeoGen PSR, you're talking about a device that has won 2 national aesthetic awards and a global plasma award, right? Never mind any competitors out there. They just can't brag that, even in like industry. So, you know, not only is NeoGen PSR extremely effective, but it's nationally and globally recognized as such. You know, some of these other devices, you're not going to go to Taiwan and see them firing away. You will see NeoGen PSR firing away in Taiwan. You know, you go down to Iraq, you're not going to see, you know, some of your other devices operating in Iraq. You will see NeoGen PSR. Any corner of this globe, you're going to see NeoGen PSR and NeoGen PSR doing amazing things.
It's an amazing
So
device.
this is a wave that is just really starting to ramp up here in the U.S. market. We are late to the show. This is something that the rest of the world has figured out.
You know what though? It had to be built the right way, and for it to be built the right way and have the solid foundation, it's taken a couple of years.
You need the right people behind it.
It's all about the people. It really is. And because the right people are now behind it, it's always the energy's never changed.
Yep.
The energy has always been the energy. It just never had the right representation behind it.
That's exactly
It's
right.
like Marcus Limona says, it's people, process, right? Those are the most important things. People and process, and then
If you missed our first podcast, we were talking about NeoGen. You know, we were talking about the amazing device, how it's turned Shaun Charles MedSpa into a 4-time National Aesthetic Award winner. I'm a Global Plasma Award winner. How it's made, a husband and wife dynamic duo.
I mean,
One of
so,
the
so just
fastest
to
growing-
just to give you some perspective, when Angela and I first started distributing NeoGen, we were a regional distributor for the Northeast, and really it was Angela and I and Diana Sellers. That was it. That was our team. And then now today, 2024, I think we have 22 full-time employees. We're paying salary and benefits now, and we're going to need to scale this up. We're going to need to add headcount. In fact, we just brought my brother-in-law, Angela's brother, on board. We brought Mandy, who's a dear friend of ours. She's running sales operations for us. So, you know, this has grown pretty quick. So if you take a look at where we were 2 years ago compared to where we are now, That's quite a big leap.
It's kind of the same trajectory they've gone on.
Right,
In
you
the
went-
same time.
Yeah, and but I also want to temper that with, as amazingly quick and as amazingly robust that is, I consider that responsible business growth. Okay.
Yeah.
With anybody else, I may not, but I know the heads behind the plan over there, and I know that, every decision is scrutinized 7 ways to Tuesday, and just finding out not only what is best, financially for Emergent MedTech, but what is best for the end user.
Yeah.
You don't see
Always.
that with other companies. You just don't see that. You don't see that type of partnership. Angela probably killed me for saying this. She's denied sale, to, some providers because she wasn't, sure they were going to be successful with the device or not. Never mind the financials of it. She just didn't know if they were NeoGen people. She just didn't know if they were good for the brand, and she cares too much about this baby, if you will, to put it in somebody's hands that is not going to take great care of it. So
There were 3 people. Historically, there are 3 that come to mind that I'd
Say the names.
against our better judgment, we sold to for different reasons. One really, really wanted it. One kind of went around us to try to buy it when we didn't want to sell it to them. And the other one, we just thought,
they stole it.
that we
They wheeled it right out of their
we
garage.
would make it work. But every one of those 3 purchasers, I felt very uncomfortable with the purchase, and they did not work out. And so Jeff has taught me a lot about learning to trust my own instincts. I have great instincts, and now I will use them. If I walk in and the energy is way off and they're just not NeoGen people, I walk back out. I tell them I wish them luck. And
It's authentic.
you know what? For whatever reason, this isn't the time.
And for me, I simply look at, do you have an entrepreneurial spirit? If you're going to open up a med spa, you have to have an entrepreneurial spirit. What does that mean? It means you've got to have that kind of it factor, but you've also got to be the type of person that's going to devote all your waking hours 7 days a week to being successful. If you're not, if you're the type of person that thinks they're going to just hang a shingle, put a sign up, and then work 6 hours a day and build a business 5 days a week, it's not going to happen.
No.
So if we identify somebody as that type of person, it's not just NeoGen. A hair removal device is not going to be right for you.
And for all you, future business owners, stay off Instagram, because you know what? You're going to see them hopping out of the Ferrari, with their shades and their Louis Vuitton, and it's like, yo, look at this lifestyle. It's so great, isn't it? Isn't it now? But you know what you're not seeing them sweat. You're not seeing, the late night phone calls and the panic and the wondering what's going to happen, and the
the sleepless nights.
Sleepless nights. There's a lot to be said for that process. That if you're going to be successful, as an entrepreneur, you are gonna dedicate. You better work, as a wise
Love that.
person once said. But I will honestly say that you can always be an entrepreneur where you're working for someone else. You're getting that insurance. You don't need to worry. You're getting a paycheck every week.
And some days that sounds
what?
great to us.
Some days that sounds great to us too. I want to be very clear.
I think you guys are way too deep into it at this point, but
No, it's a lot of fun. There's nothing more gratifying in the world in building something, in building your own business, providing for other folks. But just know that there is a heavy burden that comes along with it, and if you're not willing to take on that burden, this is not the right business for you. And particularly this type of business, I will say this is one of the most competitive business on all fronts. Whether you're somebody that's selling equipment or you're somebody that's a provider, this is a vicious business. So make sure you know what you're doing. And if you have questions and you're thinking, and you are a nurse practitioner, or you're somebody that's thinking about hanging up a shingle or opening up your own business, give us a call. Give Jeff or Shaun a call. We'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly.
absolutely.
And Edwin also, I want to speak to Edwin because he's with us a lot. He's not just our digital marketing person. He is an all-encompassing adjunct to what we do. And we really appreciate having you on the team. And
I love being on the
And,
team.
and he's a great guy too. I think that's important to note. You know, one of the first things I said when I got into this industry was, "Look at all the pretty faces and all the ugly souls." That was an ignorant comment I made. I'm just going to throw it out there because of the truth. You know what I mean? You're here to make people pretty, but you're an awful person. You know what I mean? So Shaun and I have always sought to, break down any kind of drama, any kind of crap with. We just don't get involved in it. You know, when it comes to other med spas, we're the first ones to share, our financial plan, our profit and loss statement. The first one to refer patients to another spa just because it's closer to where they live. We're the first ones to go in and do a training. We're the first ones to give everything of everything we have because that
so generous.
all ties back to our attitude of abundance.
Jeff and Shaun are the most generous with their time, and I'm always trying to guard it like it's like my. Don't you call them? Do not call them directly.
And you know what? And Jeff's been very good to the sales reps too. I know that. Like Jeff says it all the time. It's really not a problem with the sales reps. It's the problem with the administration behind the sales reps. Yeah. What you potential buyers don't see when that pushy laser rep comes through the door is the incredible amount of pressure that they have from their manager has from their manager, and so forth. And they're constant threats about losing their job.
Yeah, so don't hate the rep.
It's a high pressure cooker business. But I will say this: if you feel like that rep is being pushy or is maybe putting on the charm a little too thick, well, follow your instincts on that and consider working with somebody else.
And, consider working with somebody that isn't going to pick up a puppy at the pet shop and then come in and say, "Hey, you like my puppy? You want to sign the paper?" Yeah. It's like we've seen it all over the years. I got to be honest with you. One thing I will tell you is, work with somebody that's not afraid to say, when you say, "Let me think about it," and they'll say, "Okay."
I think the moral of today's podcast was relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
In order to hold an effective consult, you need to build that trust, hold a relationship. In order to sell a device, right, you need to have a relationship. It's the people behind it. So while we talked about an amazing device, NeoGen, last episode, this episode is telling you if you don't have the relationships with your client with trust or with your client to buy a device or a consult, you're not going to be a successful provider.
True.
So these people on the sides of me are really good relationship building people, right? I mean, they're running their businesses as literally in a relationship, right? They're married, running a business, right? So
that says a lot.
It does say a lot.
So if you can work alongside your partner, your spouse, that tells you a lot.
Yep. Mm-hmm. You understand the key to success is building a relationship. So if you haven't seen the first episode, you got to check it out. Talk about NeoGen, talk about the success stories. In this episode, we uncovered the ROI, what devices work really well with NeoGen, how to hold an effective consult, the new NeoLift method, and uncovering the truths of the aesthetic industry and how ugly it could really be and how EmergentMedTech stands different. Any final words from anyone here? Feel good?
I think we feel great, and I just want to highlight when we talked about starting this podcast, it was exactly going to be this. It was going to be to hit on some key issues that we thought were important for this industry, on both sides of the coin, but also to help share best practice and to, we've got an independent machine expert over here that nobody knows more about machines. We got a medical theorist over here that's a provider that is, I would put her close to anybody. Edwin would MC any party I had, period. He's got more talent in that level. I'm kind of a jack of all trades, and then we've got one of the most, amazing providers that we have ever seen, and I may be biased, but that's...
I may be biased too, but he's my provider.
So there you go.
Well, thank you all so much for your time. We'll see you guys soon.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right, now.